The Canary Islands are famous for having pleasant weather and cheap drinks, but there's a lot more to explore on these islands. Today I'm gonna show you the most unusual things to see on Gran Canaria. Many people visit Gran Canaria in December, especially people from Northern Europe. This is a perfect destination to get away from the bitter cold of Scandinavia. I think I prefer this to the ice and snow at home. If you happen to visit the town of Las Palmas around Christmas, make sure you head down to the Las Canteras beach for something special. Every year since 2006, people have built amazing sand sculptures here at this beach around Christmas. The details are exquisite and it's an amazing sight to see. It's a pretty unique way to celebrate Christmas. There's something special about seeing sand sculptures represent a holiday that I at least associate more with winter and snow. The only problem is that you have to fight the urge to not run up there and kick these wonderful sculptures. Must not destroy these works of art. Oh no, look at the nose on that donkey, I guess? It wasn't me, I didn't do that, I promise. Is it just me, or doesn't it look like that guy should get some private time with his flute? When you think of Gran Canaria, you most likely think of beaches and booze. You probably have a mental image of beach hotels and forests and mountains. But something that came as a surprise to me the first time I visited Gran Canaria is the sand dunes of Maspalomas. This looks like something straight out of the Sahara Desert. It's not really what I think of when I hear the Canary Islands. And it's not exactly a hidden gem, because it's plastered all over every page that lists the things you have to do on Gran Canaria. But it's still an amazing sight to see. It's quite a popular spot. It's always full of curious tourists, and you can even take camel rides on the dunes if you want to imagine that you're crossing the Arabian Desert. Even if it's a very small desert in that case. These dunes are also quite famous as a place for random hookups. In fact, scientists on Gran Canaria have said that British tourists in particular must stop having random sex on these dunes because it's hurting rare plants and bushes. In the southeast of Gran Canaria, there is a place that you can't really get to without a car, so it's quite a unique experience. Barranco de las Vacas is a stunning canyon that offers some amazing sights. I've heard that this place can get pretty crowded though. That doesn't seem to be the case today, thankfully. A small warning though, it is pretty hard to find a parking spot, so be prepared to fight for the small pockets at the side of the road. The most impressive part of this canyon is just 50 meters long, so people are often lining up to take photos of this place. I love how the internet has made the world more accessible for everyone. People can share really exciting locations and experiences. But it also means that more and more people are crowding all the most impressive attractions. Without the internet, I wouldn't have known about Barranco de las Vacas, but because of it, so many others also know about it now. Approximately halfway between Las Palmas and Maspalomas, you can find the Cocodrilo Park. Here you can see macaws and lemurs and storks and iguanas, and of course crocodiles. This isn't just a normal zoo though. This park also serves as a rescue center for exotic animals. For example, animals from illegal trafficking, or from people who thought that it would be really cool to have an exotic bird at home, or a tiger or something like that. These people soon realize that they know nothing about how to take care of exotic animals, so they need to be taken care of someplace else. Let this be a lesson. Don't get an exotic pet. It won't end well. Even though I have to admit that I'd love to have a fox myself, but they're not allowed in Sweden. There are quite a few opportunities to get really close to some of the animals, but all of those animals are rescue animals, and they wouldn't make it in the wild. I have a feeling that my iguana buddy was a pet at some point. He was really familiar with people. I think the Galapagos tortoises are endangered, so get in there, do your stuff. Tourist trains has got to be the most touristy thing you can do. Or wait, no, sightseeing buses, that's even worse. The Canary Gardens, or Jardín Botánico Viera y Clavijo, is the biggest botanical garden in all of Spain. There are thousands of different cactus, palm tree and dragon tree species here, and a lot more. And most importantly, this place was founded by a Swede, Erik Sventenius, or Erik Svensson, way back in 1952. That's a very important fact. This garden has more than 500 different species of indigenous plants and more than 2,000 different types of cacti. It's not just Canarian plants that can be found here, but also plants from all over Micronesia. Micronesia is the name for the collection of volcanic islands on the west coast of Africa. The Canary Islands is one such group, and you also have Madeira, Cape Verde, and the Azores. Plants from all of these islands can be found in this spectacular garden. So this is the Fountain of the Wise, but it's all dried up. I'm not sure if that's a metaphor or an allegory of some sort. South of Las Palmas, you can see the famous Caldera de Bandama, but this actually isn't a caldera. 2,000 years ago, there was a volcanic eruption here that created this crater. There was a deposit of groundwater here that came into contact with hot magma under the earth, and that caused a massive explosion of steam that pushed upwards. And that's technically a mud and not a caldera. A caldera is formed when a deposit of lava erupts and then collapses inwards after spewing out all the lava. A mud often has lower rims, but it still looks damn impressive. This is definitely a sight you don't want to miss on Gran Canaria. Climbing the top of a mountain is usually a pretty strenuous activity. I found the highest mountains in Sweden and Norway pretty difficult, but today it's gonna be a lot easier. The highest point of Gran Canaria is Pico de las Nieves, and there's a road almost all the way to the top. If it had extended just a little bit more, I could have sat in my car while telling you about this spot. This peak is 1,949 meters above sea level, and it gives you an amazing view of the entire island. It's also a very popular spot for watching the sunset, but I'm not gonna do that unfortunately. I'm driving and I wanna have a beer tonight. No drinking and driving. Remember to stay safe, kids. Close to Pico de las Nieves, you can see another peak. Roc Nublo is a famous crag that used to be a place of worship for the native Canarians. It's a bit of a hike to get there, but along the way you get amazing views of surrounding villages and dams. Yeah, and forests as well, I guess. Something else you might want to do is rent a car and go driving on the mountain roads of the island. It's quite amazing and really beautiful. A bit stressful with all the hairpin turns, but quite beautiful. Just make sure you don't hit any bikers on these narrow roads. If you visit the port of Mogan, you're definitely not going to be alone, but make sure you don't miss the viewpoint if you do come here. In general, you're pretty spoiled with wonderful views on Gran Canaria. If you want to see something pretty special for Gran Canaria, you can go to a Lucha Canaria match. Canarian Wrestling is a particular type of wrestling that has its roots in the Guanches, the native Canarians. When I first heard about it, I envisioned Mexican pro wrestlers with masks, but unfortunately it's a pretty normal type of wrestling. If you're into esoteric traditional sports, this is still something you might want to check out. And speaking of things to check out, make sure you have a close look at the subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And maybe click it a bit as well. That's what all the cool people do. Maybe you're not all that interested in going down a submarine after the recent Titan debacle, but I am either way. In the port of Mogan, west of Maspalomas, there's a company called Submarine Adventures that takes you underwater in a yellow submarine. I won't sing any Beatles songs while I'm in the submarine, I promise. Or yeah, maybe at least. This is probably gonna be really cheesy, and it's probably gonna feel like a cheap carnival ride, but I have to admit that I'm still looking forward to it. I'm getting flashbacks from Baldur's Gate 3 right now. If you know which part I'm talking about, then you know. We all live in... No, I'm not gonna. It all looks very cool, but I forgot to mention that it's actually an artificial underwater theme park of sorts, so nothing you see is, well, authentic. Vejueta, the old town of Las Palmas, isn't exactly an unusual tourist destination. You've got the Casa de Colón, the cathedral, and many other beautiful but very typical tourist spots. It's still well worth a visit, and if you want to see something a little bit more unusual, you can head to the Vejueta market as well. There's lots of fish and cheese and pastries and meat and everything else you might want to try. Puerta del Mar is a really popular aquarium in Las Palmas, so it's not really an unusual tourist attraction at all. But it's still really fun to look at all the fish. If I'm not mistaken, the shark with a long tail is called a thresher shark. I got up at 4 in the morning in the Philippines to see them. If only I'd known that all I needed to do was go to this aquarium. That little guy reminds me of my ex-wife somehow. Do you want to feel like a real cowboy? Then you should visit High Chaparral in Sweden. But if you can't go there, you can also visit Sous City Park in Gran Canaria. This theme park was built in 1971 as a film set, but eventually they realized that they could use it for a lot more. This place is oozing Wild West atmosphere, if you ignore all the tourists and all the cheesy activities and the modern country music that they're playing. The film Take a Hard Ride from 1975 was filmed here, and the park has also been used for many concerts and TV ads. There's people dressed up as cowboys here, and they put on shows as well, and there's a very small zoo section as well if you want to see some animals. You can also take horse rides and go into the different buildings to see what they're showing off. I love the cantina. It looks really cozy, but some of the other places are of course trying to sell you something. The park starts off pretty weak with not much to see and some pretty bad set pieces, but it does get a lot better. Overall, it's not exactly a stunning theme park, but it is pretty fun, and it's definitely one of the most unusual things to do on Gran Canaria. I think this little guy is the highlight of the entire park. I hope you enjoyed this little look at some of the more unusual things you can do on Gran Canaria that don't involve drinking, eating, or lounging by the beach. Like and subscribe, but most importantly, have a great day. Now have a look at this video up here in the corner for even more Gran Canaria adventures.